Hi everybody, Sandra Hennessy here from Be Dynamic, bringing you a training program on Twitter. So how to become a top tweeter and how to use it as a customer acquisition tool. So I'm delighted to be bringing you this on behalf of the local enterprise office in Cork City, and we will be running through some key things in the area of Twitter in regards to obviously how to use it, its features and tools, some strategy. We'll be working through some design tools. And if you have any questions at the end of it, you can feel free to get in touch with me. I have no problem with you contacting me. Obviously, you can contact me on Twitter because I have a Twitter account, but you can pop me an email if you have any questions at all. You're using Twitter, you're unsure, you want me to have a look at your profile or bio, anything like that, please don't hesitate to get in touch. So as I said, we're going to look at obviously setting up an account, the key elements to an account, understanding how to use Twitter successfully in your business, and then looking at some of the Twitter etiquette. So how does Twitter differ from other social media channels? So the first thing is that a tweet is only 280 characters. So it's quite short. So you have to get your point across quite quickly. Now there is a way of creating what we call a thread of tweets. So I'll show you how to do that. So that means you can say more if you need to. So if you want to tell a story or something like that, you can do that. And you can create a thread of tweets. So I'll show you how to do that. But Twitter is very, very quick. You will notice if you have been using Twitter in any way that the news feed is really, really fast, especially kind of come lunchtime as kind of other countries like America and stuff start waking up and starting to use it. It has kind of found its own niche area in becoming a source of news. So it's a great place to go to if you're looking for news, either just from a national or international perspective or specific to your industry. One thing about Twitter that a lot of people don't realize or they don't really harness the power of is that kind of conversation piece, that relationship marketing piece. Twitter is a space for connecting to people. So it's really, really important that you utilize it for that. So it's not just about sharing your own content. It's really about having conversations, getting involved in conversations, but being tactical and figuring out who should I be getting in conversations with. So we'll talk a little bit about this as we kind of work through. You generally won't see people doing kind of the heavy sell on Twitter. The only things you normally will see being sold is things like event tickets, software systems, that kind of thing. You normally don't see the heavy sell. And people on Twitter don't like being sold to. What we want to do is we want to know your expertise through the content that you're sharing, through the conversations you're having. And when we look at your bio, we need to know exactly what it is you do and what you're going to do for me as your potential customer. It is also fantastic to, obviously not limited to, connecting with PR, with media, influencers, thought leaders in your space. So it's a really, really good tool for that. It normally, the vast majority of people utilizing it are in the business to business space. But obviously it's not limited to that. It really just depends on your business and how you're going to harness the power of Twitter. You can see on this slide here that Twitter has the lowest number of users from all the big social media platforms. So they only have 330 million active users, or accounts. You have to just be aware of that. So that's why Twitter tends to kind of fall down in the list of social media channels that you should be using. If you're in the business to business space, I would see it being as one of the top channels that you should be using. But it really depends on your customer base and where they're actually spending their time. And that's something that you need to do, is try to figure out, are your customers using Twitter? If they are, it is somewhere you should be. If they're not, then you might consider other channels. So the first thing, maybe even before you get active, is to start searching and seeing, are your customers active? Are they in there? Do they have accounts? Are they utilizing Twitter? Because there's no point in using a channel if you're not going to be reaching your customer, unless of course you're using it just to get access to news, which is a legitimate use of Twitter. So you'll see here from social media in Ireland, Twitter is one of the lower ones. LinkedIn is at 43% of population, Twitter is only at 30%, whereas Facebook is at 72%. So now, as I said, there it is still very effective, but it's just making sure your customers are on it. And then just looking at the age profile split across the board, you can see the older age profile will be the lowest level users. So why use Twitter? As I mentioned a moment ago, it's very much about building relationships, because when we're using social media channels, always remember it's people engaging with people. The robots haven't taken over yet. So it's really important that you remember that there's people behind these accounts, and that's who you're trying to engage with. No matter what we buy, we engage with people at some part of that purchase process. So it's really important that you remember that. And it's very important for building trust and credibility. And how you build trust and credibility is through the quality of the content you share, through the conversations you have, through the people you connect to. It's really important that you share content that shows your expertise in your field, and obviously connecting with thought leaders and influencers. It's great for brand awareness, and every business should be going through a brand awareness campaign at all times, whether it's using this channel or other channels or a mix of them, because you need to be making sure that you're introducing your business and your brand to new potential customers all the time. So that's really, really important. So it's also good for crowdsourcing. So there is a poll feature which I'll be showing you where you can reach out to your network to ask them questions and to give you feedback. And also you will see some brands using it as a customer services platform, which is a really good way of utilizing it. So again, look at the likes of your Bank of Ireland and stuff like that. They use it very successfully, and even the airlines, they use it quite successfully as a customer services platform. Some of the etiquette, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about going in with your own agenda. It's not about pushing your own content out. Obviously, you have to share your own content, but it's about that engagement piece. So promoting yourself, showing your expertise without overly selling yourself. Sharing opinion. So again, this is something that you can make your own decisions on. So I would suggest you do it with caution, but at the end of the day, it's your account. If you're representing the business, this is part of your policy. So just as an example is, if there's an election coming up, are you going to tell people where your allegiance, where your allegiance lies from a party perspective? Or if there's a referendum coming up, are you going to let people know which side you're on? As I say, there's no problem with doing that, but just as a business and a brand, these are the considerations you need to take into account. And it's to be proactive instead of reactive. So it's to always make sure you're kind of the leader in your space. You're the one that's in there sharing your information, sharing your knowledge, networking with the right people. So Twitter has become, in the early days, Twitter was very text orientated. So it was just about that 140 characters. Then the last few years, they've extended it from the 140 characters to 280 characters. They've also allowed the upload of imagery and video content. So it's become very, very visual. So it's really important that you're using tools to help to make sure that your content stands out. So imagery and videos that really pull people towards your content. So I have a few tools here that I'm going to show you. So you may or may not already be a user of Canva. I'm a massive fan of Canva, and if you're not using it, it is definitely one to look at. They would definitely be a leader in their space in regards to designing imagery for social media. So when you create your account, you'll see here on the left hand side, there's a little button, create a design. So that allows you to go in, and they've loads of templates, and I'll show you that in just a second. But down here, they have a section, design school. It's well worth going in there and just getting some key tips and tricks on how to use Canva effectively to design for your social media. So I'm just going to go into the creative design. I'm going to type in Twitter. And you can see we've loads of Twitter templates. So we've the header, we've Twitter post, and then they have some Twitter post templates as well. So I'm just going to go into the quote Twitter post. So you can see it opens a new window. The thing with Canva is that once you have an internet connection, it is automatically saving in the background. Now you can go into File and save it in there. So you can see the save button there, but you don't actually need to. Once you retain your internet connection, it's automatically saving for you. So just across here, you'll see that you can name it. So I'm going to do quote. So you can just rename your file, and then you can choose. So pick the one you like the most elements of. So there's loads and loads of different templates in there. So you might, I'm going to go back up here, and let's say I choose this one here. So I like the most elements of this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make it look a bit more like a post that I would share. It also, because what will happen is you'll start seeing Canva posts pop up and you'll start recognizing them. So what you want to try and do is you want to try and make sure that your posts are as unique as you can get them. So I'm going to keep the quote. So let's say And I'm going to go up here. I'm just going to move these up. So when you click, you can move each element. And when you click on an element, you can see there's an edit bar here that appears. So it doesn't matter whether you click on your photo, whether you click on text, you can change all the different elements. So I'm just going to change the colors on these. I'm just going to change this. And what I've done is I've added a little palette of colors for my brand. Now I have the upgrade account in Canva, but you can use it without actually having to upgrade. So I would recommend testing it before you upgrade. It is only around $12.95 a month. Now just to let you know, I'm not affiliated to any of the tools that I will be mentioning to you today. I'm using them because I just find them great and really easy to use, and I try to bring the most cost-effective tools where I can as well. So what I'm going to do now is you can add folders, and you can add then images to your own folder. So I've added a folder here with my logos in it. So I'm just going to pop my logo onto it. So I'm just going to pull it in the corners, resizes it. So I'm just going to pull in the corners there. And I'm just going to position it, and see the dotted lines. That shows how it's positioned. So I can see it's centered there nicely. Now this picture doesn't really do anything for me, so I'm going to change this picture. So I'm going to go over here to the left hand side, and I'm going to go into their photos. So I'm going to go in here and do a search. So I searched for motivation earlier on, and this is the photo that I chose. So I'm just going to drag that across, and you can see as you drag it, it automatically fills the background. So it's a really, really easy tool. You can, by the way, upload your own photos. So if you have your own photos, you absolutely can use those. So I then can export that. So over here, I can either publish it to Twitter, which I tend not to do. I tend to download it to my device. Now they do have an app which might come in useful. But I tend to, and whether I'm using it on my phone or on the desktop, I tend to download it to my device, so to my computer or to my phone, and then upload it. So when I click download there, it's giving me suggestions. So PNG is perfect, and then I'm going to download. So that now is going to download into my downloads file on my computer. I can then use that in a tweet if I wish to at any point. So that's the first one. So Canva. Canva is an absolutely amazing tool. The other thing about Canva is that they do have video content that you can use. So again, you can do a search. I'm just going to search for motivation. So any of those videos can be used in your content either. Again, some of them are free, some of them you pay for, and it's the same with the imagery. If you have an upgraded account, you do get access to more content free of charge than you do with the free accounts. It's just worth being aware of that. They also, under the elements section, they have loads of cool tools in here. So they have grids that allows you to put different kind of collages of pictures. You've got shapes, you've got frames, they've even got stickers. So these are just a folder of different stickers, so they're all kind of moving. So you can see, so there's lots and lots of stuff that you can be designing. There's charts, lines, all sorts of really, really good stuff in here. So it's really, really good. And the one suggestion I would make is create templates for yourselves so that you don't have to continue to reinvent the wheel every time you want to create a post. So for instance, this could be my template for quotes going forward. So all I have to do is change the text, change who the quote is by, and then change the background picture. So it speeds things up for you. So that's the first tool I wanted to show you. Okay, so the next tool I'm going to use to show you is one called Ripple. So Ripple allows you to create video. Now they have a fantastic app. So I actually find it easier to use the app than I find to use the desktop, but to be fair, they're both very, very good. So I realize that people have a lot of imagery and not so much video content, but you really should be thinking about how you can create video content, because video is how people want to consume information now. So you need to figure out how you're going to bring more video content to all your social channels, not just Twitter. So what they have is they've loads of templates in here. So lots and lots of templates that you can utilize. So if you choose on a template, so let's say we choose this one, what will happen is it'll actually show you the video, so you can play it here. For some reason it's not playing. Okay, we've got this. So all that one does actually, by the looks of it, is it just changes the background color. So if you wanted something that just stood out, something really, really simple, that's really effective. Oh, sorry, I'm just after closing it down there. So lots of great templates in there. The other thing as well is what you can do is you can have your loads of different accounts for your different clients. So I'm just going to go into my own account. So if you have a few different pages you want to create content for, you can create content for those, but actually have them in little folders, so it's easier for you to get access to your content. So what I tend to do a lot of the time is, instead of using their templates, because again, you'll start seeing the templates pop up, I do start from scratch. So I start a video from scratch. So again, you can input your own video content, or sorry, video and image content, or they have a library that you can use. So the first thing is, on the left hand side, you can see all the different editing elements. The first thing I'm going to do is change the size of it to be more Twitter specific. So that's the first thing. So now I'm going to go back up to the designs. So this particular design doesn't really do much for me. So I'm just going to choose this one. So I've used this particular one on a few occasions. Now, if it looks a little grainy or a little blurry, it's just purely because I'm working on a very large screen today, so it's dragging everything, so it's pixelating. But when you export it, it shouldn't actually be grainy. It should be fine. Now, you will have to upgrade your buffer account to be able to access longer videos, but you can give it a good, or sorry, Ripple. You can test it for free without having to pay anything. So you can upload your own media. So you can upload from your computer, or they have media built in. This is a fairly new edition, so you can see their media is built in. So let's say, for instance, now I try to avoid stock imagery like this if I can, because it just looks like stock photos. So if you can use your own photography, even better. But sometimes you might just want something really, really simple, like they have here in the background, just the lights. So let's say I just want some animals in my photos. So they have lots and lots of photos there of animals. So there's lots, and they also have a stock of video that you can use as well. So this you can integrate your own video content in it as well. And then what you do is you can change the text elements. So you can see here primary text and secondary text. So you can change the text elements. You can change the font colors, the font size, everything like that. So if I wanted to use yellow, pink, or whatever, and again, you can customize by putting in the code of your own text, but obviously white looks better on that one. Other things, you can add audio to the background. So they have some free audio here that you can use. So we'll see what making waves sounds like. Not too bad. So there's lots of things that you can do. And again, as I say, you can add your own media. So you can add your own imagery. So it creates a kind of a slideshow using whatever template that you have chosen. So let's say we want to turn this into something that is for Easter, for instance. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. I just have to click. I'm using it like, oh, sorry. Sorry, you have to agree to the terms and conditions to make sure that you're only using it for the purposes. So that's the first one. So we might then put in, what else takes my fancy there from an Easter perspective or an animal perspective. Use the bunny rabbit one there as well. And then down here, you'll be able to flick between them and you'll be able to play it. So you'll be able to see how it plays. Obviously, this isn't my best work, but you get the idea. So you can change it all up if you wish to. There's lots of cool things in there. So that's Ripple. And the last one, which is all singing, all dancing. This gives you huge control. This allows you to do longer videos. You can control the transitions, everything like that. So this is called Wave. Again, they have templates, but you can design from scratch. And again, you can use your own video. And over here, you can see all the different dimensions. So, and you can see this one's for Twitter. So we'll do horizontal. So here's all the templates for. So let's say, for instance, we do lots of people are doing pizza delivery or pizza collection now rather than delivery. So that's just something really, really simple. So you can edit the template. It might take just a few seconds to load. Okay, and down here you've got the edit elements. You can change the transition between. You can change the music in the background here on the left hand side. You can add stickers if you wish. On the right hand side, you can change the text, you can change the style of the text, the color. If you want, you can change the pictures, so that once you click on the picture, you can click on replace and you can replace the picture. So there's much more control in this. Ripple is very much, you've got the template, all you can do is change kind of the image, the music in the background, and the text that's on the images. This gives you much more control. So I'm a big fan of both of these. So you might use Wave Video either. One last thing I want to show you just in regards to imagery. If you do need access to free imagery, because this is something that businesses don't want to be spending money on necessarily. So Pixabay is one of my favorite places to go to. So if I just type in Easter, just purely because it was recent enough. Now, the one thing to be aware of in here is at the top, these are not free. Okay, so just be careful of that. These are your free images down here. So here's all the imagery you could potentially be using on your posts. And these are, and if you go into any image there, so let's say I pick this particular here, you'll see here, free download, free for commercial use, no attribution required. So there's lots that you can do. Now, again, just make sure you read the Pixabay license and that you're happy with how you can use it. But lots and lots of businesses are using the likes of Pixabay to get access to imagery. So now we're going to go back to the presentation. So the next section we're going to look at is just a little bit around strategy and planning. It's really important that if you're using any channel that you have some ideas. First of all, what is it you're trying to achieve? Why are you using Twitter? What are your objectives? What are you trying to achieve? Is it just that you're going to get access to news in your industry? Are you actually going to be using it as a customer acquisition tool, a lead generator tool? So here's just some examples. So brand awareness. So for instance, the first thing you need to be doing there is if you're trying to build brand awareness is to develop a content strategy. So start thinking about what content can you create. And it's not just about that 280 character tweet. It's about case studies. It's about blog articles. It's about thought leadership pieces. And this is a content strategy that you should be developing for the business as a whole. Thinking about where you're going to create this content. Is it going to be on your website? Are you going to call it a blog or a knowledge hub? Where's all this information going to be hosted? So it's really important that you develop a content strategy and sharing content that is useful to your customers. So think about your ideal customer. What information do they need from you? And especially with the COVID-19 situation, how is that going to evolve? And what information do they need that'll help them right now? And you need to stand out as a leader. If you're trying to build relationships, so if that's part of your objectives or part of your plan, you need to start engaging in conversation, but being really tactical about who you engage in conversations with. So for instance, are you going to engage with other businesses in your field? Are you going to try and use it to engage with potential clients? Are you going to try and get partnerships, so people who can maybe refer you? But it's all about conversation. If it's about media, getting in contact with media and getting in front of media and getting seen by them, then obviously connecting to the likes of PR companies, PR people, local and national journalists, media companies, and again, engaging. If you want to build your own influence, then you need to start surrounding yourself with influencers. So obviously thinking about your own industry, who is influential in your industry. So I'm going to show you a few tools that will help with measuring your goals and your objectives. So the first thing I'm going to share with you is a KPI document. So this is something that you should potentially be using for measuring. So the first thing we're going to look at are your baseline. So where are you starting from? So the things we're going to measure is your social authority. So how influential are you on Twitter? Under brand awareness, how fast is your follower number growing? So I've given a target there of 1% month on month, because that's generally what I would see. Obviously, when in the early days, that will be a much higher number, but when you kind of settle down over the kind of 1,000 mark, you should be looking at least 1% month on month growth. Again, under brand awareness, what are you measuring? So are you measuring your impressions? So how many people potentially saw your tweet? So how many news feeds did your tweet land in? And what is the engagement rate? So again, I've given a target there of between 1 and 1.5%. That would be kind of the average that you would see on Twitter. Then the other stages. So you've got consideration. So if you're sending them out to the website, how long are they spending on your website? If you're looking at the conversion piece, how many sales or leads are you getting through your Google Analytics from Twitter traffic? Are people private messaging or direct messaging you, and are they turning into leads? So these are all the things that you should potentially be measuring. So I've given a document there which allows you to set your baseline. So what's today's number? And then over the next 3 months, do a monthly report. That'll help you to determine your averages. So then you'll be able to set your targets. And you can obviously measure some of your competitors as well. So one of the first tools that I'm going to show you is a tool called Follower Wonk. This is one of my favorite tools. I've been using this for absolutely years. So so what you do in here is there's loads of tabs. So I'm going to use the Analyze tab, but you can compare yourself to competitors, but I'm going to use the Analyze tab for today. So what you do is you just type in your Twitter username. I always use the Analyze their followers and then do it. Now, if you have over 5,000 followers or the account, and you can use this, by the way, to analyze anybody's account. So you can analyze competitors' accounts, or if there's businesses out there that you would see that you would align yourself with or you would aspire to, you can check out their account. So if you've over 5,000, you will need to log in and connect your Twitter account with it, and it may take a few seconds to generate the report. Now, I obviously have some reports already generated. Oh, there's mine in. Okay, so you can see here, so I have 54 out of 100, which is pretty good. So that's how influential I am. So that's based on how often I'm tweeting, who am I tweeting, who am I engaging with. You can see how many years, so I'm nearly 10 years on it. You can see how many of my tweets are retweets of other people's content. You can see how many I tag people in and how many I add URLs to, so many I'm linking to articles or websites to. Now, I really, really like this report because it analyzes your last 5,000 followers and tells you where they're located. So if I zoom in, I can see where my followers are located. Obviously, the hottest spot there being Ireland, so that pink is the hottest spot. So I'm growing in all areas. Dublin, I have growth there in kind of that Waterford, Kilkenny space, and down in Cork as well. So Dublin is my biggest area at 751. It's a hot spot at the moment. So it's a really, really handy little tool. Now, another reason why I analyze the followers of an account is just purely so that I can see when they're active. So if I wanted to tweet at the right times for the best engagement and the best potential reach and to get the most eyes on my content, this report here is very, very handy, because what it does is it actually tells you the most active hours of your followers. So if I was to tweet to get the best interaction and the best visibility, I should be tweeting at 10 a.m. anytime actually between 10 and 12. It's quite active throughout the day, to be fair, but you can see a few spikes there, 2 o'clock, 4, 5 o'clock, but there's a big spike there at 9 o'clock. So 10 a.m. if I was only to tweet twice a day, I should be doing it at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. at night time. So it's a really handy little tool. Now, as I scoot down, there's lots more reports, but I'm just going to skip to this one here. So this shows you how influential your network is. So you can see here, I have 9 people with high influence, because they're 81 to 90 social authority score. And I can see then who those people are. So I can see the social authority, and I can, if you connect your account, you'll actually be very quickly able to click that follow button to follow them. So if I find anyone here that I should be following, so I'm just going to follow Jim there. Now, sorry, I didn't connect my account properly, obviously, but you should be able to click that little follow button. Now, this gender split down, I don't tend to pay too much attention to it, because if I was in there as my brand, Be Dynamic, it would be very difficult for Twitter to assign a gender to it. So I don't pay a huge amount of notice to that. So you can see there's lots and lots of cool reports in there that you could be analyzing your Twitter network. So that's a really, really good one. The second one I'm going to show you, so Follower Wonk gives you a lot free of charge. The second one I'm going to show you is called Buffer Analyze. The reason I like this is because if you're reporting to a client, or if you have to generate a report for a monthly meeting, anything like that, this tool will allow you to generate a report really, really quickly. Now remember, I'm not affiliated to any of these tools, so don't worry if you don't use them, but this I really like because it has cut down my reporting time significantly. So you can see it actually analyzes Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and they have a new tab there, Shopify, which I haven't had a look at yet. So the first thing is you can change the date period. So you can see how many tweets I've done. You can see my engagement rate. You can see my impressions. So the green, obviously, and it's looking at the previous time, so the previous 28 days. And you can add it to your report. So when you click on add to report, it asks you to name your report. And then you can go back in and just change the date period, and it'll automatically generate the report for you. You can see everything from, so you can see your follower numbers. So I've had a little spike there. You can see if I go into engagement rate, so you can see how that's peaking and troughing, and you can see my average engagement rate is 7% at the moment, which is really good. But it's just purely because I've got a little bit more active since COVID-19. Previously, I was only at 1.87%, which is still quite good because it's still within that kind of 1 to 1.5%. If you go into the posts, it'll analyze each of your posts for you. So you can actually see, so that's by impressions. So I'll change that to engagement rate. So you can see which tweets got the best engagement rate. So you can see I made a pie and tweeted about it. This is a image. For some reason, it's not pulling in. Oh, sorry, there's no image with that. It's just a text one. So you can see the engagement rates. And the last one here then is, and you can also, by the way, see the hashtags. Reporting. And then under answers, you can see it's telling you which days you should be tweeting, what type of post you should be tweeting, and how often you should be tweeting. So really, really good stuff. So hopefully you find that useful. And the last one I'm going to show you is Twitter's own analytics. Now, if you're not familiar with Twitter, don't worry, I will be bringing you through sorry if you're hearing banging, my next door neighbor seems to be banging on the wall. So under the More section, you will see Twitter Analytics here. Okay. Now, you can see it brings you straight into a dashboard. And I'm going to go into the tweets at the top. So again, it defaults to the last 28 days, so you can change the date period if you wish. You can see your tweets per day. If you scroll down, you can see your individual tweets and you can see your top tweets. So you can see which ones you're getting the most reach and engagements for. And then the right-hand side, it'll give your engagement rate, so as a percentage. So again, you don't have to use Buffer Analyze. There is quite a lot of information in the in Twitter's own analytics, but if you just want something to pull together a nice report. Under the More section, you'll also see information in regards to any video that you share. I don't think I've put video up in a while, so I mightn't have too much data in here. It's also taking a little bit to load. So I don't know why that's taking a few seconds to load. But generally it'll show you completion rate, so that's how many people looked at the whole video and how many views you got. For some reason that's not loading very quickly there, but you can see the data is in there. There's also a way of tracking conversions, so if you're doing any advertising or anything like that, you can track your conversions. So that is the type of things, the type of metrics that you should be measuring, and I will get this KPI template shared out or made available to you so that you can download it and utilize it if you think it will be useful. So now after all that, so now we've gone through just a little bit about the kind of tactical approach, about your setting your objectives. We've looked at some of your design tools, both from an image perspective and a video perspective. So now we are going to look at Twitter itself. So I'm going to give you a tour around Twitter. So I'm just going to switch out to looking at Twitter. Okay. So this is Twitter. So if you haven't used Twitter, this is what it looks like. Now on the desktop, I'm going to be showing you on the desktop today, but if you're on the mobile, what you're looking for is, instead of the name of the navigation item, it's the little icon that you can see there. So you're just looking for that. And on the mobile, again, you're depending on the device you're using and the app and the age of the app and everything, but your navigation is normally on the bottom of your the screen on the mobile. Okay, so this is the newsfeed. So on the left, you'll see your navigation. If you're looking for that on the mobile, click on your profile pic on the top left-hand corner of the mobile app, and that'll take you in to the list of navigation. So on the left here, you have your navigation. Down the middle, you have your newsfeed. And then on the right-hand side, you'll have things like trending topics, suggestions on who to follow, things like that. So I'm going to give you just a little tour around all the key sections. But the first thing we're going to look at is your profile. So I'm going to click into my profile. So some of the more important areas of a Twitter account. The first thing is your profile pic. And I generally recommend that there's only 2 things that should go into your profile pic space. So you can see I have my headshot in there. And the 2 things are either your headshot or your company logo. They're really the only 2 things that should go in there. Because if you look at Twitter, even on your mobile device, but on the desktop here, look how small the profile pic gets. So anything with detail, the detail is going to be totally missed. Also think about, like you can see this one here is a little dark. This one here is very clear. So just think about how it's going to look when people see it in the newsfeed. So that's the first thing. So your profile pic should be either your headshot or your company logo, and making sure your company logo fits perfectly, that there isn't part of it hanging off the edges. Really important. The second thing then is the header image. Now this header image is 1500 by 500. Again, if you're in Canva, they have templates designed. You decide what goes up here, but ideally it will be kept up to date. Now I have one that I don't need to update because there's nothing kind of timely on it, but if you're going to have something that's timely on it, make sure it is kept up to date. And you can see then we have a name associated with the account. Then we have the username. The username is really important because that is how people will recognize you on Twitter. And then you have the bio. So I'm just going to talk about the bio in just a second. The username you cannot change under the edit profile section. The username has to be changed in the settings. So I'll take you into the settings in just a moment to give you a walk around some of the key settings that you should be aware of. And then so you need to decide, will you have your personal name associated with the account? So it really depends on if this is going to be your account or the business branded account. Now you can have a mix. You could have what some people do is they'll have their name associated with it, so it personalizes the brand, and then the username might be more brand specific. Or if it's very much going to be you and you're going to be the spokesperson, or you're going to be kind of the personality of the business, it could be both your name and in both the name and the username. And then the bio might include some details about the company. So you just have to think about how you want people to see you on Twitter. And then your bio is short and it describes exactly who you are. So it gives people a sense of if they want to follow you, why they should be following you. Now, if you want to edit any of these elements, there's an edit profile button. And again, it's in a similar position on the mobile device. So you can see that you can click on the photo, the camera icon there, and you can upload any picture. So if I wanted, I could put in my new photo there that I've designed. I can upload again just by clicking. And what it does, it takes you out to your own file. So you just find the file and upload it. This is where you change the name. This is where you change the bio. And in the bio, again, it depends on whether it's going to be you or business one, just branded. If it's you, then add a little bit of something that makes you human. So I've just decided to put in the fact that I'm a mom and a shopaholic. I've also included a hashtag. So we're going to talk about hashtags in a little while, just what they are and how you might use them. Put in your location, put in your website. If you want, you can put in your date of birth. That's totally a decision you can make. And you can see it actually gives you how many characters you have for each element there. So you can see if you have, and I actually have a few characters to work with on my bio, so I could extend it out a little bit. One tip I would give just in regards to your bio, for a long time I had the number of years I worked in digital marketing. So this year would be my 18th year. So I would have had 18 years in digital marketing, and that is absolutely fine because it shows longevity in a particular industry. But unless you're going to change that every year, So if you want to make it to show longevity, and you don't want to be having to go in and change your bio every year, because trust me, people do forget. You might just say in whatever industry since 2002 or whatever year it is, because then you don't have to keep changing it every year. And it's just purely because I used to have to change it every year and I used to forget. So it wasn't up to date. So it's just a little tip based on my own experience. Okay, so that's how you change your bio. So just to recap there, your profile pic should only have your headshot or your logo, and it should fit perfectly. The background picture there, called the cover or the header image. Again, if it's going to be timely, make sure it is kept up to date. And it's 1500 by 500. And then your bio, keep that up to date. If there's anything new people should know about you, put it in there, add it to it. So now I'm going to head into the settings of the account. So if you pop into the settings, so again, on the mobile device, you will click on your profile pic on the top left-hand corner. On the desktop, you can see here it's under the profile, and you can see settings and privacy. So I'm not going to walk through every section here. A lot of this is just down to your own preference. There's a few key areas that you should be aware of. So the first one is the one it defaults to, which is the account settings. Here is where you can change your username. Now see the way it's giving suggestions. Obviously I'm not going to change that. Try and avoid numbers. Try and avoid dashes, underscores and dots, but sometimes you can't avoid those. I would have a preference for using maybe an underscore over using a number. So, and try and make it specific to your business or you as a brand. Second thing is you can register your phone number. Email address, make sure that it's your current email, because again, if you need to access your account and you've lost your password, you'll be able to trigger password reminders to the email that's registered on the account. So if it's a business account, who's managing that business account for you? Is it their email that's being used? Is it the business email that's being used? So some people register, for instance, their Gmail. But if they're going to leave the company, can you get access to that account? You can change your password if you wish to, and I would strongly recommend a secure password. Capitals, numbers, letters, and characters. Really important. And then under the security, you can add two-factor authentication. So again, that's just an extra layer of security if you wish to add it. Privacy and safety. So this is one that I would suggest you go into. And see, it says here, protect your tweets. You would only really use that if you want to keep your tweets private. So if it's a personal account. Location information. This is if you, again, this is a more personal decision. Do you want your location available on your tweets? Photo tagging. Now, if it's a business account, I would suggest keeping that open and allowing people to tag you. Because if you want to build your brand or build your own personal brand, I would suggest keeping that open. If it's a private account, you might want to close some of these things down. But the one thing I would recommend you tick is this box here. So mine is already ticked. So direct messages, receive messages from anyone. It's a business account, so I would suggest you open that up. Don't have it that they have to follow you or you have to follow them to be able to send a direct message. So they're the main things in the privacy settings. Notifications, that's more personal preference. How do you want to be notified? And then under content preferences, this is where you can choose, for instance, muted accounts, muted. So this is where you can mute words or you can mute accounts. So for instance, an example, let's say, for instance, is somebody you have to follow, but for a period of time, they're talking about maybe a particular event that's coming up, or like, for instance, some of my network, if the Euros or the World Cup was coming up, sometimes I might mute them because that wouldn't be of interest to me. So you might mute them for a period of time and then obviously unmute them. Or if you don't want to follow particular topics, so you can mute specific words. So I have COVID-19 muted for a period of time because I don't want Twitter to be my COVID-19 feed. Facebook is my COVID-19 news source. I want to retain Twitter as my business news source. So again, you can mute specific words if you wish to. So that's a handy one under content preferences. You can also block accounts. So if you don't want to people to be able to access, or you want to block accounts, you can do that in there. Display settings. This is just to do with the desktop. So you can change the color scheme, but I wouldn't overly concern myself with this purely because it can't be really seen on the app because you will control the app separately. So they're the main things under the profile section. So you can edit your profile. If you want to edit the username, remember you need to go into your privacy and settings, which are over here. And then in your privacy and settings, the one thing to take would be definitely to allow people to direct message you. You want people to be able to direct message you, very important. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the home page. And you'll see my home page fill up with new tweets all the time. So every time I refresh, there'll be a new tweet in there. And Sunday will probably be one of the slower days, but Monday tends to be quite a fast day on Twitter. So the newsfeed, it's really important that you understand how the newsfeed works. So the newsfeed is filtered. So the default setting is that you will see the tweets that Twitter determines to be most relevant to you based on who you're interacting with. Now you can change it. So this little icon, and this is available on the mobile as well. So see latest tweet instead. So you can have it appear in chronological order. So you can see the most recent tweet first. So again, it just depends on your preference, but the default tends to be the algorithm. So you will see tweets that Twitter determines to be most relevant to you, and also based on your own preferences. So if you've gone into the settings and changed your preferences as to, like, if you want to see people or block people, anything like that, you can do that. So it's just be aware that this is filtered. So let's say I want to reply to a tweet. So I'm just going to find a tweet here. Now, if you're passionate, this will be evident in how you interact on social media. So this is obviously an image that they have put together. Now, it's not ideal dimensions for Twitter because you can see a lot of it is cropped off. So they've probably designed it for Instagram and Facebook and decided to use the same image on Twitter. And a lot of people do that, but the ideal would be is that you're creating images in the size specific to Twitter. So you can see this video here from Mashable works well on Twitter because it's the correct dimensions. So the first icon underneath, so I'm just going to give you a little walk around the tweets. So the first icon underneath is the reply. So if you want to reply to that tweet, if you want to say something about that tweet, and you can add images, GIFs, poll, or emojis. But we'll come to those in a little while. Now this little icon, the second icon here, don't worry, you won't normally see it. It's just because I'm using Buffer as a scheduling tool. And I'll talk about some scheduling tools a little later on. TweetDeck is the best for Twitter, but Buffer is another option that you might consider. Then you have the retweet option. So this is, you want to share the tweet. So you can just retweet it. So that just means you're sending that tweet out to your network. Or you can retweet with a comment, which means you're giving a bit more context as to why you're sharing that tweet. And giving context is always important where possible. Try and avoid just retweeting lots of tweets, because you don't want to be seen as just a conduit for other people's content. You need to try and make people see that you're an expert in your field. So yes, you can absolutely retweet stuff if it's relevant, but try where possible to give a little bit more context. So when you click on retweet, retweet with a comment. So you're just going to put a little comment in at the top. And again, as I say, it's just about giving context. The little heart button, that's like endorsing a tweet. So it used to be a star because they thought people were going to favorite tweets. But I'll show you how to bookmark a tweet if you do want to favorite. So the little heart is just an endorsement for a tweet. So it's just to acknowledge that you've seen it. So you can see there's a lot of, so this one has 16 love hearts, so 16 acknowledgements, 5 retweets and 2 replies. And you can go into any of the tweets that are public and you'll be able to see the replies. You can even click on the likes and see who's liked it. And it gives you the opportunity then to follow those people if you wish to. Now, I don't know what tweets I'm clicking on here. It's just randomly generated. So here's one from Mike Scheimer that actually might be relevant. So I can share that if I wish to. So I can click the little love heart, so I'm acknowledging it. The image looks great because it fits nicely in Twitter. They've used hashtags, so I'm going to come to hashtags in just a second. But I would never share a tweet unless I have read the article. Because what if the article goes against everything that you advise your clients? So make sure you read the article. So this is what I'm actually going to bookmark, and I'm going to come back to this later and read it a little later on. So he seems to be tweeting a few articles there. So he's got a few articles coming in there at the moment. 45 seconds, 27 seconds. There's quite a few articles popping in there. I wouldn't necessarily say bulk tweet like that. It'd be better maybe potentially to look at balancing it out throughout the day. See this little arrow here? I can click on that and I can add the tweet to bookmarks. So that saves it in a little file over here in bookmarks, and I can come back to that tweet later and have a little read of it. Because trust me, you will not be able to find that tweet again later on. You might if you remember who tweeted it and you can go into their profile and look for it. But I would strongly recommend you bookmark it because you will struggle to locate it, especially if that person is quite active on Twitter. So if they're tweeting a lot, you will struggle to locate it again. So in my bookmarks, there it is, so I can come back to later. You can also see I've bookmarked a few, and this is just for training. So just some of the tweets, just even in relation to COVID-19. So for instance, Paul O'Keneally here he's the travel editor from The Independent. So he does a lot of traveling, or he would normally do a lot of traveling. So he's created this hashtag when we travel again to try and get people to start talking about when this social distancing lifts and when we get back to traveling around, whether it be within Ireland or internationally. He's trying to promote Ireland, so you can use that hashtag to get involved in that conversation. Another one here, the world is closing down for a while, but let's keep our minds open. So he's created a link there to an article with a nice picture. Kim Garst here, she's asking people, so this is kind of crowdsourcing. Let's hear your stories. So what is the most ridiculous question you've ever heard anyone ask? And then here's Dublin Zoo saying, starting today, each weekday we'll post an activity sheet themed around one of the animals at Dublin Zoo. So it's just giving access to kind of activity sheets for kids. Mark Little here, he's tweeting about kind of a list of tweeters, and I'll talk about lists in a while and how you might use lists effectively. So I'm just going to go back to the homepage. So that's the first thing. So it's just to understand the homepage and how it works and how it's filtered. The second thing then is when you're generating a tweet. So I might generate a tweet and go, great day. I put together a new, and I might do a hashtag here because I'm talking about Twitter. So a new online Twitter course so I'm using hashtags. So I'm going to end it off with a few hashtags as well. So I'm just saying, great day, put together a new new online Twitter course, and I'm going to tag the local enterprise office. So here it is, Leo, Cork City. People. So you can see there I'm just generating the tweet. So now I might end it off with a hashtag, and hashtags are used in different ways. So a hashtag is automatically clickable. So you can see there I can automatically click that. Anything that's blue is clickable. So anyone, if I was to tweet this, anyone who sees the tweet can click on the Twitter hashtag or can click on the account that I've tagged. And to tag an account, what you're doing is you're associating them with your tweet, and they'll be notified to say they have been mentioned in a tweet. So hashtags are for many reasons. So one of the first ones is to give more context to the tweet. So I might do digital marketing training. And you can see the hashtags will normally, T-R-A-I-N-I-N-G, and then we might do Twitter training. So sometimes you'll see tweets pop out if they're popular tweets that will be used. And I might do Zoom, because Zoom is the system that a lot of us are using for our online training. So what will happen then is if I was to tweet this, anyone who sees it will be able to, I'm promoting local Cork, the Leo Cork City, the local enterprise office Cork City's Twitter handle there, which is @Leo Cork City. They'll be able to click on any of the hashtags, and then my tweet will be part of all the tweets that have used those hashtags. So I'll click on a hashtag in just a second. So if I was to tweet that, and you can see it's counting down. So see this blue line here, that's actually counting down the characters. So when that circle is full, you've ran out of character space. Now, if I was to keep tweeting, it would actually go into minus. So it would tell you how much over you are. So you'd have to minimize your tweet. Now, if I wanted to keep talking or I wanted to say something more about it and I had run out of character space, I could click on this little plus. So this plus allows me to create a Twitter thread or a thread of tweets. So see the line here connects the tweets. So you can have, you can tell a little story just by creating the 280 characters with the next tweet and the next tweet. So people will be able to see the whole tweet. So I'm just going to discard that. So it's just really important that you see that. So I'm just going to go back in here so you can see. You can also add images, but you can only add 4 images to a tweet. So there's the image. I might just say a great quote. And I might even see if Dennis is on. W-A-I-T. I'm wondering if this is the Dennis Waitley. It looks like it is. W-A-I-T-L-E-Y. Yeah. So great quote from. Now what I will do is when I tweet it, I'm going to double check that that username is the correct username. Now the only thing with Twitter is that you cannot edit a tweet. Now unless they've added it in the last few weeks, but you generally can't edit. So you just have to start from scratch if you do it. So you delete it and you can start from scratch. So I'm just going to reread this. The reason most people never reach their goals is they don't define them or ever seriously consider them as believable or achievable. Winners can tell you where they're going, what they plan to do along the way, and who they will share their adventures with. So I quite like that. Now there's 2 ways to tag. There's tagging in the tweet itself, or you can tag on the photo. So I'm just going to double check that this is the right person. So the easiest thing to do is just go into Twitter, do a little search on the top right hand corner, and I'm just going to check that this is the motivational speaker. You know, like high performance human achievements. Yeah, it looks like it is him. Okay, so we're going to continue to tag him in that. So I can tag him on the photo or I can tag him in the tweet. If you tag somebody in the tweet, you're using up your character count. So if you're struggling to get the message in, you still want to tag somebody, but you don't want to use characters, then tag them on the photo. And I see there's another Dennis Waitley there, so I'm just going to check, make sure that I am. So here's again. Okay, so there's a second Dennis Waitley. He seems to tweet a lot of quotes. If that works, that's absolutely fine. Best-selling author and keynote lecturer, multinational corporations globally. I'm going to hope that I'm tweeting the right person. Oh, sorry, I'm just close that down. So let's hope I'm tweeting the right person. Yeah, okay. So I have my photo. Now you can upload 4 photos. So I'm just going to upload 1. So I'm going to tweet that now. Now I'm just going to show you if you do wish to delete something. So I will delete this and I'll just do a bit of research a little later, make sure it's the right Dennis Waitley. So if I wanted to delete, I can go in every tweet that you have generated, you go into the top here. So the first thing is you can pin it to the top of your profile. So that means it'll be the first tweet when somebody comes into your profile that they see. Now the key with that is to make sure that it is kept up to date. You don't want a tweet from last year appearing up there. Even if it is still up to date, I would suggest you share the tweet again. So create another tweet with the same message, same image even, and pin that to the top of your profile, because it might make your profile look out of date if something really dated is pinned to the top of your profile. But I can delete that if I wish to. So there, it's gone. So you can delete. So if you make a mistake, don't fear, you can actually delete your tweets. So that's the first thing. So how to tag. I've shown you how to use hashtags. So you will use the search feature in just a second to find relevant hashtags. You can also add GIFs. So GIFs are just these funny. So if I do Sunday, so these are all the ones that relate to Sunday. And Twitter is a really good place for a bit of humor. People like humor. You can also add a poll, and you can have 4 options. So spring, summer, autumn, winter. You have to have 2, but you can have up to 4. And you can decide how long to run it for. Generally a poll on Twitter, 1 day max. Absolute max 1 day. And of course you can use emojis. And now most tweeting will be done from a phone normally. I think it's about 80 to 90% of people are using Twitter on their phone device. So those emojis are very easy to access on the devices via your normal keyboard. So the search feature. So we were talking there briefly about hashtags. Okay, so you can see there's my recent searches. So let's say I type in hashtag, and we're talking about Twitter. Twitter training. So when I do a search, and it doesn't matter whether I search for a hashtag or I just search for the words Twitter training. Over here, you can filter. These are what they determine to be the top tweets. So this was done on November the 15th, 2019. So that's quite old. But if I go into latest, here's the most recent tweets. So here's somebody, I love my tweets. Who else wants to get 4 million people seeing your tweets each month? Yeah, who doesn't want that? Be careful of those people who claim these things. A lot of them have kind of automation tools and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I can't comment on this particular person. So just be careful of automation tools. Absolutely, if they have an article that tells you how to get 4 million tweets, go for it. The real thing about Twitter is just about being active and relevant, and obviously using things like hashtags. You can filter by people, so there's nobody actually using Twitter training in their bio by the looks of it. You can look at photos. So again, there's the one from earlier. And you can see if there's any videos. So, and if I was even just to take out the hashtag and just search for the words, again, now they will be slightly different because we're searching for the words rather than the hashtag here. So we will have slightly differing results coming up. And you can see here, see, it's not keeping the words together. This is Twitter training. I'm just going to... If you do inverted commas, see now it's bringing in where the 2 words are kept together. So it's just be aware of that if you're searching. If you search for 2 words, it's going to look for the 2 words in the tweet, not necessarily together. If you want the 2 words together in the tweet, use inverted commas. And again, you can filter it. Over here, you can see the settings or advanced search, or you can save the search. So if you want to come back to that search at a later point, you can save it and you'll be able to access it via just the search bar. So if I save that search, go back to my home page, it's up the top. So, and you can see saved searches here. So these are the most recent, but you can see my saved search there, and you can bin them as well. So if any of these, so this I might delete, gone. Love Dublin, gone. So whatever saved searches you have there, you can delete. Okay, so we've gone through your profile, how to edit the key elements on your profile. We've looked at the homepage filter. We've looked at how to generate a tweet. Now remember, it's only 280 characters of wonderfulness. How to tag another account. So just to reiterate that, always tag using the @ symbol, start typing their name. You will see the accounts come out. So it's just picking whichever one is relevant. It would be ideal to, like we were trying to see there, if Dennis was the right Dennis, to go in and just have a search and find the right person before you do the tweet, to make sure you're, especially if it's somebody new and somebody you're not following, just to make sure. Using hashtags, so using the hash symbol. Hashtags don't have spaces, but if you want to do 2, then you do hashtag space, next hashtag. Generally, you will see 2 to 3 hashtags on a tweet. So that's generally what you will see on a tweet. Sometimes they'll be integrated into the tweet itself, but more often than not, you will see it at the bottom of the tweet. So I'll just see if and see there's lots of articles in here. I'm going to talk about articles, and just to see this one here, see the way we have the Twitter article, or sorry, the hashtags at the end of the tweet. So that's typically what you will see happening. You can do 4 photos. Your videos, by the way, can be up to 2 minutes, 20 seconds. So that comes from the old days of the 140 characters. If you do want to go live, by the way, you'll be doing that on your phone. You'll be using a third-party app called Periscope. So Twitter and Periscope interact nicely together, so you can go live on your phone. If you're a new user of Twitter, I would suggest that you get used to the basics first before you scare the life out of yourself and try to go live on it. So just be aware of that. Okay. And then obviously adding a GIF or adding a poll option. Now, the one thing actually about a poll option is you cannot have images in the poll, so they're just text. Okay, so that's the home page. Obviously, you can see trending topics over here. So if I go into the Explore tab, that'll become more obvious. So trending topics, this is topics that are trending, and you decide where you want to see the trending topics for. So you've got the little cog up here, so you can customize the trending topics. So if I untick that, see the way it says explore locations. So again, you can explore locations. You can even type in locations. So if I type in Galway, I can explore the trending topics for that particular location. Now again, it's harder to be specific to a county like that, so I tend to keep it set to Ireland, so that I'm seeing what's relevant from a national perspective. So you can see here what's trending in Ireland. And some will be hashtags, some won't necessarily be hashtags. So some are just topics. So this is the For Me tab. This is the trending. So again, you can see some of them, actually, there's only one hashtag in there at the moment. Oh, this is COVID-19. So a lot of them are just kind of keywords that are trending. So you can see a lot of different trending topics. You can see news. They think that is kind of in some way relevant. You can see what's under the sports section. So you can see fun and entertainment as well. So keep an eye on the trending topics, because that is an opportunity, especially if there's something trending in your own industry. That's an opportunity for you to start getting involved in a conversation and start sharing content that is relevant to that space. So keep an eye on it. And then on the right hand side, you will also see who to follow. So they do actually get it quite on point. Once you start using your account, you start following other accounts, they'll start seeing who you should be following. So now this is an ad, so you can see this is promoted. Okay, so that's kind of the home page. So now I'm going to go into we went into the Explore section there. The notifications. You will be notified when people tag you. You'll be notified when somebody engages with your tweet. So you can see all, or you can see just the mentions of you. So again, and what ideally you should be doing there is nurturing the relationships with the people that are engaging with you. So if somebody says something, do you need to reply? Or should you just at least acknowledge the tweet? And again, you can customize using the cog. So that brings you back into the settings there to customize the notification settings. Private messages, these are messages between you and another person. These are private, no one else can see them, but my rule is never put anything into a direct or private message that you wouldn't want to be shown publicly. bookmarks, which we were in a little while earlier. So this allows you to bookmark so you can come back to later, or save them so you can come back to later. Now lists. Lists are really, really handy. The news feed, if you're following 2,000 people, you could be following accounts for different reasons. So you might be following them because they're related from a business perspective. You might be following them because they're the national broadcasters. You might be following them because you might have a personal interest. They might be your favorite football team or rugby team. So what's going to happen is your news feed is going to get cluttered, and it's going to be really fast, and you're going to miss out on a lot of potentially key content. So what lists allow you to do is create, and you don't have to follow people for lists, by the way. You can add people to lists, so it kind of categorizes the content for you. So I have an SEO list here. So I've put some key people onto this list. So if I want to know anything that's happening in the search engine optimization world, these are the people that are going to be talking about. So it's just about creating. So for instance, you could create a list that is public, and it could be something like this, or you could create a list that is private, and it might be a list of your clients that are on Twitter. So these are the ones that I have set up. So these are the lists I have created. But I've also subscribed to other people's lists. So if I go into Ian Cleary here, I go into 3 dots just under his profile, I can add or remove him from a list, or I can view his lists. So when I go into his lists, I might decide that I want to look at influencers. And I might decide, okay, there's some really cool people on this list. So what I'm going to do is, instead of reinventing my own list, I'm going to subscribe. As you can see, I've already subscribed. If I don't want to, if I want to discontinue my subscription of that, I just click the button again. So he has 95 members, 8 subscribers. So you can subscribe to other people's lists. And that's the same exercise, by the way. I forgot to show you following. There'll be a little follow button. If you just want to follow somebody, you can click the follow button. So subscribed are ones that you or whoever's account you're looking at have subscribed to. So I'm just going to go back into my lists. Oh, and here's the little icon to create a list. Now on the desktop, if you find somebody and you want to add them to the list, you can create lists as you go. On the phone, if you want to add somebody to a list, you need to create the list first, then you can add them. So it's just to be aware of that. So you can create a name. So I might give this, I might do social media, social media tips. You can give it a full description if you want, and you can make it private if you wish. So that could be your client list. Once you click next, it's then asking you, do you want to add? So that would be somebody I would add. Mark would be more in the SEO field. There's nobody there at the moment, but I can always go back and add people at any point to that list. So here is the lists now that relate to the people who are on that list. So I can go in and do a search. So let's say I want to do Kim Garst. She's big in the social media world. So I want to add her to my list. You go into their account, you click on the 3 buttons. Now on the phone, those 3 dots are overlaid on the header image. So just watch out for them there. So I can add or remove from the list. So I can go into, oh, where did my list go to? Didn't save for some reason. So social media tips. Oh, because it's private probably. Done. For some reason that list didn't save, but anyway. And that one didn't save either. Okay, let's try that again. There could be a problem with it. Sometimes there's a little, so I'm just going to click done. So that list, so when I go back into my lists, it should be there. For some reason it is not. They must be having trouble at the moment, so don't worry if it's not working. As you can see, I'm clearly creating the list, adding people to it, and it's not appearing in there, so they might be just having a little bug there at the moment. But it normally would. As you can see, I have created lists there. So you can create your own lists, so you can break down the people that are on Twitter into categories for yourself, so you can get access to information quicker and access to their tweets quicker. You can subscribe to other people's lists. So if there's lists out there that other people have created that are relevant, you can subscribe rather than creating them. But what's really cool about lists is the member section. So this is the lists that you have been put on by other people. So the key here is that it will actually show you if people know exactly who you are. So you can see here I've got everything from Twitter bots, SEO, SMB, social media, social selling, data protection. So it kind of fits all the kind of areas that I would kind of advise in, because I'm just kind of a general digital marketing practitioner and trainer rather than specializing in one area. But I'd be mostly known for SEO and social media. Now I do have a fashion expert in there, which is quite an odd one. So there's SEO again, so you can see all the lists that you are on. So for instance, if you're on chocolate lovers list, you know you're talking too much about chocolate. So it's to make sure that you're talking about stuff that relate to your business as much as possible. But you can talk about personal stuff. Don't fear that you cannot talk about it. At the end of the day, it's your account. You have to decide what you're going to use it for. And you will see a huge amount of professional people out there talking about stuff that is relates from a personal level. Because at the end of the day, remember, we are human beings and we're trying to connect with other human beings. So always remember that. So bring a little bit of you through will work phenomenally as well, because it helps people to connect on a deeper level with you. So that's your lists. So we've kind of gone through all those kind of key sections there on the left-hand side. So remember, if you want to follow somebody, it's just a case of going in, clicking the follow button. If you want to add them to a list or view lists, you can do that. You can also block them or mute them if you wish to. This little guy here allows you to be notified about their tweets. So if you want to be specifically notified when they tweet, you can click that little bell. You can also direct message them there, so that will take you direct into your direct messages. So Twitter is probably one of the easier platforms. It's just about getting information out in 250 characters, short, snappy, to the point. There's no real complications other than it's just deciding on what is your strategy, what are you using Twitter for, what are you trying to achieve with it. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a legitimate use just by saying I want to access just news that is relevant to my industry. So you can seek information and then over time start getting more active. Now, how often you should tweet really depends. There's lots of studies out there. For instance, Neil Patel, I would probably agree with his one where he says 5 tweets a day will be a good starting point. But it really depends on how active your network is. If your network is really active, then you should probably be as active. And Twitter is something you should be doing on a day-to-day basis rather than checking in once a week. It's something that you should be checking in several times a day. And you can be scheduling your tweets as well. So there's a few tools for scheduling tweets. So under the More section, they have Twitter ads. Now, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about Twitter ads because a huge percentage of, especially small businesses, tend not to use Twitter ads, but it's just to be aware that it is there. So for instance, if you want to promote a tweet that if you've already tweeted, you can do that. As you can see over here, you can promote your account. So you become part of the who to follow section. So there's lots of different types of tweets, but the one tool I do want to show you in here is under the creative section and under the tweet section. So if you want to use Twitter as a scheduling tool, you can. So create a tweet and see the way it says promoted only. So untick that. So you'll generate your tweets. So I'll just write in test. Again, you can add photos, you can upload video, you can upload polls. I'm going to talk about Twitter cards in just a second. And then instead of tweeting it straight away, you can schedule it. So you can decide when that tweet goes out onto your timeline, onto your profile. So that's built into Twitter. So just to show you there again, so you would go into the Twitter ads section, up to creatives, tweets, create a new tweet in the top right hand corner, and untick promoted only, because promoted only obviously would be an ad. So it's a really, really quick way of, but obviously you would need to be on the desktop to be doing that. The second tool for scheduling is one called TweetDeck. So this is kind of all singing, all dancing. So TweetDeck is the type of platform you'll use if you don't want to be going to Twitter. So you can see here, so I've created my account, I connected up my Twitter, so it'll take you through the process. So essentially what it'll do is it'll ask you to log into your Twitter account because it has to create the connection. And then you can add your columns. So you can see I have the home, notifications, schedule, mentions, social media, and so on. So you have the add column section here. So you can see here, you can add. So let's say I want to add anyone who mentioned, no, we'll do a search, make it easy on myself. So we'll do COVID-19. So you can see now I already have a column for that, but you can see here the most recent tweets. So they'll both up to date. They should update and have the same tweets in it because it's the same feed. So you can see there's lots of tweets coming in there for that. And again, you can delete them if you wish. So it's an all singing, all dancing, full service platform. So if I wanted to engage with Dermot Whelan here, I can reply, I can retweet, I can like. So I can engage with any of the tweets. So this is my normal newsfeed. So if I go to Twitter, I should be seeing these tweets coming up in my newsfeed. These are all my notifications. If I was to schedule a tweet using TweetDeck, they would be in here. So again, I can create a tweet and you can schedule it using the little feature there. So it really, I'm the type of person who prefers to go to Twitter itself, but other people prefer to use a platform so they can decide, they can customize what they're looking at. You can see this is moving at a very fast rate over here, but you can delete them if you wish to. So you can see TweetDeck is a pretty good platform. Now, if you don't want all singing, all dancing, and you just want a system that's just going to schedule your tweets, buffer.com is something that you could potentially be using. So I'm just going to log into my account there. So I was showing you Buffer Analyze earlier on, but this is Buffer just for scheduling tweets. So I have a couple of accounts connected there. So I have some predetermined times. So in the settings, you can actually go in and you can determine the time slots under posting schedule of when you want to schedule your tweets for. So when I go into the queue, the times that are in there are the times I have predetermined. So schedule a tweet. So I can generate a tweet there. So there's not very much reporting or anything like that in here. They used to have a lot of reporting, but they seem to strip that out and you have to pay for it now, which is, you know, what a lot of tools end up doing eventually. But again, if you just want something really simple to schedule your tweets, this would be a really good platform to use. So you can schedule your tweets in the add section on Twitter. You can use TweetDeck to schedule your tweets, or you can use Buffer to schedule your tweets. So that, I think, is Twitter. So it's just really simple. It's just about those short, snappy tweets. It's about getting them out there. Remember, it's about engagement. It's not about just constantly pushing your own agenda. It is very much about that engagement piece. So replying, retweeting, commenting, even just, as I say, clicking the little love heart, the little like button, in endorsing or acknowledging tweets. You have to be active. So be proactive, not reactive. Really, really, really important. So that's it for Twitter. So the key takeaways are for you to, first of all, define why you're using Twitter. If it is going to be a customer acquisition tool or a tool that you're trying to get sales leads, remember it is about relationship building. And it does take time. This is the marathon, not the sprint. So it takes time to build those relationships. It takes time for you to show your leadership, and it takes time to see those leads coming through. And obviously then constantly monitoring and refining your content. And remember about that creative aspect. Try and create content that is very visual. So thank you again. By all means, as I mentioned earlier, reach out to me if you have any questions, and I hope to see you again soon.